What's up, guys? Dan here, and I'm joined by Clay Westerlund of Short Stays Worldwide for an interview today. He has an Airbnb management business where he actually helps owners of rental properties turn them into Airbnbs, and he runs them for them so that they can focus on doing what they do best. So he's going to be talking about that today, sharing how his business works, how he helps investors like myself with rental properties and all that good stuff. I just opened an Airbnb, so I'm really excited to hear the kind of value that he can drop, the tips and tricks, and all the rest from being a full-time professional Airbnb operator. So let's get right into the interview.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dan.
Absolutely, Clay. So yeah, I mean, first off, how long have you been doing this business? How long have you been in Airbnb management?
Well, so I started my first Airbnb out of a spare bedroom in my apartment, and that went live back in 2018.
Okay.
I had been using Airbnb for many years before that, so I was a seasoned traveler using the product, and
Right.
never had considered hosting people myself, but I like people. And so I was like, hey, this would be a great way to kind of meet a little bit more new people instead of just getting a long-term roommate that, if they don't work out, then you're stuck with them for 12 months.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Where did it come from there? What were you doing at the time,
Yeah, so my background is in sales and marketing,
Okay.
advertising, and stuff like that. So internet marketing kind of was my niche. So I was just working the 9 to 5, at an advertising agency. So I was just looking at ways to just add a little bit more revenue. I was on a fixed salary and prices just kept going up. So I was like, hey, let's get creative here. So
Right.
yeah, like I said, that I started in 2018, just listing a bedroom in my house, and then actually just a few, like 4 or 5 months later, I actually ended up going on a deployment to Afghanistan. I got
Oh, wow.
21 years in the military now, and um, so yeah, then I basically just turned the other two rooms in my 3 bedroom, 2 bath condo into Airbnbs. And that's where I got a crash course in how to manage an Airbnb from 3,000 miles away. So
That'll
thankfully,
definitely do it.
thankfully, I had kind of a little bit of a background in managing virtual teams, and with my background in the military, I'm pretty good at creating systems and processes, standard operating procedures. So that definitely helped a lot, but I still made a ton of mistakes.
I bet. So were you in the reserves then and got called up or?
Actually, this time I went over to Afghanistan as a private contractor.
Okay.
I still am in the reserves, so I just, got a permission note from my commander. Said, "All right, you can go over there. It's for the good of the country and career progression." So yeah, I did some stuff over there in Afghanistan that can't quite cover on the recorded line. So.
Well, cool. So that's awesome. You're in the military and doing this. What do who do you usually work with? What is your who can you help the most with your business?
Yeah, so just to kind of recap, I get back from Afghanistan. My place was doing really well as an Airbnb, so I went ahead and bought another house for me and my daughter to live in as our primary residence.
Hmm.
Um, and then I was just wanted to get creative and figure out how I could get as many Airbnbs as possible. And for me, going the rental arbitrage route was a little bit quicker than trying to go out and purchase 10, 20,
Sure.
50 properties myself. So I got started in the rental arbitrage, was doing really good with that. And then some of the investors that had larger portfolios that I was managing or that I was arbitraging their rentals, started just asking me. They're like, "Hey, are you making any money doing this?" And
Hmm.
so I shared some of the numbers with them, and yeah, once they saw some of the numbers that I was making with their rental property, and those numbers being higher than what I was paying them in rent,
Right.
that sparked some curiosity and motivation on them, and so really things just kind of evolved organically from there. I had some investors say, "Hey, all right, if I go out and purchase some properties, would you manage it for me? We can split the revenue." Um, and some of them had properties that were the leases were ending, and so then they said, "Okay, I want you to start running this as an Airbnb." So yeah, it really just kind of evolved from there, and then pretty soon I started getting referrals from because who are investors friends with? They're friends with
Mhm.
other investors.
Sure.
So yeah, it just kind of grew organically from there. The, kind of I'm a firm believer in the word of mouth. If you're doing a good job, then people are gonna talk about you in a good way.
100%. So that, with relate, and that's kind of how I met you, is at a meetup, and a good word from another guy that I like, so what kind of relationships, what arrangements do you typically set up with? So with a landlord or with a property owner like me, like I've got, do you usually do like management where you charge a fixed fee or a percentage, or do you do like arbitrage where you'll rent the property and then you'll just run your Airbnb out of it separately, kind of, or partnership? Like, what do you typically do, or what can you do? I guess.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So as I mentioned, I started out doing arbitrage,
Yeah.
and that was a great way for me to get into the space and continue to learn and improve my operations. But I found that again, with everything, scale is where it's at, and so with the logistics of me just furnishing properties,
hmm
paying the rents, all that stuff. I just kind of took a look at that model, and I decided that I couldn't scale, 20, 30, 50 properties in just a short amount of time if I was, again, being the one to furnish them or even trying to spin up a team to do that. So that's in this past year, 2022, I really transitioned more to management. And that's basically, in my mind, just creating a win win situation. And I don't charge a fixed fee, I just do a percentage of revenue. And the reason why I do that is because, again, coming from a sales background, I'm used to, I'm not getting paid until I've created value for you.
Sure.
So that's where I just said, hey, if the property does well in a particular month, then I'll do well. If it doesn't, then I don't want it to cost the owner any money. And
hmm
knock on wood, I've never had a bad month, and I keep getting properties sent my way, so must be doing something right.
That's great. No, I definitely think the percentage model is definitely in alignment more with the interest of the owner than a fixed fee per month.
Yeah,
Uh, what? How? Let me think here. So, what are some advantages of working with you as opposed to other management companies or something? Because there's a few, different Airbnb management companies popping up, and there's some that have been around, and it's definitely as the industry kind of matures in the short-term rental space, there's more uh, service providers like yourself. Why would somebody want to work with you rather than anybody else, right?
sure. Yeah, I completely understand. At the end of the day, I think it boils down to who do you trust.
Right.
You know, kind of when all things being the same, that's really kind of going to be the deciding factor. Now, I just like the other guys, I do offer kind of a lot of the same similar amenities, but it's really not until you have experienced the way one operator does it and then start talking to another operator. Case in point, I was just talking to a friend of mine who already had somebody managing her properties before I met her. And one thing that she shared with me that she was frustrated with was the basically the profit and loss statements that she was provided every single month.
Yeah.
And they were confusing. She didn't know how to read them.
Hmm.
And so, I shared with her an example of the profit and loss statements that I use for, the owners that I work with. And basically, she's like, wow, that's night and day. So again, it's something like that. It's kind of hard to convey, up front. But
Sure.
so, again, it just kind of goes back to one of my core values is that I don't want there to be any, even a hint of mistrust
Right.
myself and a potential owner. And when it comes to money, that's a big area that mistrust can happen through no fault of either parties. Maybe due to some miscommunication or just the way the reports are generated. So, like I said, I try and do everything to keep it as simple and easy to understand as possible so that, again, I can continue to maintain that trust. So, aside from that, I do the 24/7 guest communication.
Right.
So, that for kind of smaller guys that maybe operating 1 to 3 properties themselves, um, time is the most valuable thing we have. So,
Of course.
like, I don't know how many people still change their oil, but you know, you, you go to the professionals, and I'm a professional at what I do, and I tell people, hey, if I can save you 5, 10 hours a week, or 5, 10 hours a month on you not having to rely on to respond to guest messages, coordinate with cleaners,
Right.
scramble cleaner cancels on you, having to order resupplies, all those little things that may only take up 5 or 10 minutes each time you have to do them. But then if kind of follow general wisdom that say, usually if you're switching tasks or interrupting, it takes you up to 30 minutes to regain your focus.
Yeah.
So even a 5 minute exchange with a guest, you know, I don't know, I could say that you could honestly count that as 30 minutes of your time.
Sure.
So that quickly adds up throughout the month, especially if you have multiple businesses and,
Yeah.
time is money. So if I can save you that 5 or 10 hours a month for, a few $1,000, then I think that's a pretty high value statement to owners.
100%. Yeah. I mean, even I can, just tell from my personal experience right now, like, I have 9 units of rental property that have all been long terms. And then I just recently converted one over into an Airbnb, and I've been operating it for, probably about a month now. And it's, definitely, I'm probably going to switch it over to an arbitrage or management model just because, I think that I could definitely make more money by myself, but I'm losing that money not focused on, the other businesses that I'm operating that are can bring in a lot more. And not that Airbnb is a bad model, it's just that the time that you're gonna like the time I'll input to manage that is not worth it just to do that one thing where I could have a guy like yourself, run it for me to where I don't even think about it. I might make a little less each month, but I'm going to make up a lot more by being focused on one thing where I can make a lot more money in an active business. Right. So,
Yeah.
I'm definitely seeing after doing it even for a month, like the value of having somebody to take care of the issues, because you go into it, it's like, oh, hunky dory. Everyone's just gonna, pay 3 times the monthly rent per night, and it's just gonna be smooth sailing. And even just like the other day, I had a guest like cancel and say there was a gas leak in my property, which there's no gas leak. I had a plumber and the gas company come out and check on it. But that tied up the listing for 5 days. Nobody could book it. I had to get in touch with them and figure this out. I mean, it took probably 3 4 hours away from what I could be doing, and
Yeah.
then lost income and things like that because I'm not as on top of it as I could be, I guess. So
Yeah. Yeah. The um, income opportunity loss is a huge one. And it's kind of like I don't know the best word. I don't know if a silent killer is the best word for it, but it's one of those things that does kind of creep into your lives that unless you really stop and think about it, it's kind of like a frog in boiling water. You're just like, okay, you just kind of accept it as the status quo.
right.
But yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's just like you're perfect example. You are managing 9 long-term properties, and
Hmm.
just one Airbnb is probably sucked up double, if not triple, the amount of time that you have to spend on your long-term properties.
Oh, 100%. I don't even think about it. Like it's not even like managing long-term rentals. If you have, and there's different degrees and such, but I think if you have, good properties and good tenants, like if you have systems that automate, rent collection and things like that, and you have, good contractors that that can fix things relatively quickly, like it's a cakewalk.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's not that hard to manage property.
Yep.
Um,
I 100% agree. Now there's a few kind of disadvantages when it comes to problem tenants versus
yes.
advantages that Airbnb has. So I obviously trying to do an eviction for a long-term rental is going to take a lot more time than it
Yes.
would for me to get a guest out that is staying past their welcome. Uh,
Right.
but yeah, so I mean, like I said, it's one of those things that it seems easy at first glance, and like I said, sometimes even one or two properties is manageable by an individual. Just depends on what kind of commitments they have in their life. But my value statement is like, hey, if you have a lot of different businesses, those businesses take up a lot of your time, then you're just losing money by focusing on kind of these just day-to-day interactions that really just interrupt you and take up your time and attention. So
100%. I'm totally like for Airbnb. Obviously, I turned my property to an Airbnb. I invested probably $15,000-$20,000 in rehabbing the property, which isn't necessarily an Airbnb expense, but it was for that purpose. And then buying all the furniture and things like that. So I can obviously see the value by getting that extra income, but there's just the price of your focus, right, as an operator, and I think people don't necessarily they don't look at it as it's similar to long-term rentals to where they don't see it as the active business that it is.
mhm.
As you're essentially like almost like a remote hotel manager. It's just instead of rooms, you've got properties, scattered about, right? I mean, that's really what you're doing. And obviously a hotel, you've got somebody on staff, 24 hours a day, right? Like it's a business. It's a real estate supported business, but it is an active business that takes active daily management to operate.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. And then just some of the other just kind of benefits of working with an operator. Obviously, the investors, they just turn the keys over to me, and
Sure.
I have I've learned kind of the most cost efficient supplies.
Okay.
That's one thing that new hosts don't often think about is all the consumables that are required to run an Airbnb and how quickly those can add up in costs.
Right.
We're not very conscious of that when we're just buying it for our own personal use. Um,
Right.
but I'll use laundry detergent as an example. Um, you know, I don't know it off the top of my head, but somebody's default be like, okay, let's get some bulk laundry detergent, get some like you know um, 5 gallon liquid detergent, maybe
Mhm.
$30 does like 50 loads or something like that, and they're thinking, okay, that's a good deal, I'm getting some bulk. But then the laundry detergent that I use, it costs $50 for a bag, and one bag makes 300 loads of laundry.
Right.
So there's just little efficiencies there. Another tip that I like to use for my Airbnbs also, it's not just the cost aspect, but also the ease of use for your cleaners. So hand soap, foaming hand soap, instead of having a jug that is refilled, I use hand soap foaming tablets. So
Mm.
all the cleaner has to do, if say the hand soap dispenser is about halfway empty, they just pop a tablet in there and fill it up with water, and they're done. It takes them maybe 30 seconds versus trying to unscrew it,
Hmm.
a bulky hand soap refill. And again, it's also very efficient from a space standpoint.
Mhm.
I get packages that have 12 little tablets in them, and it takes up very little space.
Wow, I never even knew that you could buy concentrated little tablets of soap.
I know, but that, like I said, that's when that's your focus and you're looking for that. then you find the most cost effective, supplies. Again, not only from a money standpoint, but also from a time standpoint,
Sure.
because trust me, you want to keep your cleaners happy. And if they're having to, spend 15, 20 minutes on doing something that could be with a little bit of efficiency with materials, be done in 5 minutes, then they're definitely happy. So another example of a system that I've implemented for my cleaners to make things simpler is I don't use duvet covers.
Okay.
I actually use what's called, and I didn't come up with this, but it's, I guess, from common in the hotel industry, but it's called the triple sheet method. And that's basically, you have a fitted sheet on the bed itself,
Uh-huh.
then you have a flat sheet, and then you have a blanket on top of that flat sheet. And then they put another flat sheet on top of the blanket and basically make a makeshift duvet cover. Um, and so then it's easy to just strip off two flat sheets instead of trying to
Okay.
unbutton or unzip and dismantle a duvet cover. So
Hmm.
yeah,
That's very slick. No, those are all the things, definitely like as these things as owning one, you're just like, oh, I might save. You're not thinking about saving a few dollars here, but when you're operating at scale like you are, you're like, oh my gosh, if I can do this one thing, like I can, cut my cleaning costs by $5 a clean across, dozens of properties, and then all those things add up very quickly.
yeah,
Um, for you, that's why you invest that time, effort, energy to figure this stuff out.
yep, yep. And like I said, it's also um, the things to do to save the cleaners time, because I pay my cleaners a fixed rate to clean
Right.
the properties. Now, obviously, we'll give them extra if the property is extra dirty or
Of
something
course.
like that. But we pay for an outcome, not by the hour. So it doesn't matter to me if it takes you 30 minutes, as long as it gets the job done.
Mhm.
uh, but yeah, like I said, keeping them happy and helping them be efficient with their time. That's also just one of the little things that sometimes people don't often think about.
It is a good point. So, Clay, who do you service? Like, are there specific states or localities, or where do you work with clients at?
Well, I'll let everybody kind of figure that out by the name of my business. So Short Stays Worldwide
Okay.
kind of gives a hint of where I can manage Airbnbs. So I say that tongue in cheek. Obviously, I'm not
Great.
worldwide yet, but when I started this business, I'm a guy who likes to think big, and I said, you know what, Airbnb is worldwide, so why can't I? So currently, I manage properties in 3 different states, 8 cities, but really, I'm set up to handle any property anywhere in the world. Uh,
Okay.
and another benefit that I offer owners is that a lot of the investors that I work with have more money than they do have time.
Sure.
They're running multiple businesses themselves, and so for those owners that are thinking about, oh, I'd like to get this property set up as a short-term
Right.
rental, but I don't have the time to even find a team to furnish it, all that stuff. I work with a design team that
Okay.
also can handle properties nationally, um,
Okay. Great.
anywhere from just a Zoom consultation where they can send you the links of what to buy to full on turnkey. With enough budget, they can get it done.
That's awesome. So walk me through. So like, for example, we have a property in Kansas City. It's a 2 bed, 1 bath. It's set up as a long-term rental. It doesn't have anything in it, but it's ready to rent. If I was like, hey, hey Clay, like come manage this. Let's turn this into an Airbnb. Like, here's the keys. What would be the next steps for me? What would we do?
Yep. So the next step, so I don't furnish any of the properties myself anymore. So we only take on fully furnished, basically properties that are ready, that are rent ready.
Okay.
So that would be basically if you came to me and said, hey, I have this property and it's currently not furnished, then I would say, okay, do you have the time and resources within your own network to get that property furnished?
Okay.
And then if you say, nope, I'm just too busy, I don't have anybody, I need to focus on other stuff, then I'd be like, okay, great. Let me introduce you to the design team that I work with. And then, they'll take it there. They'll take it from there as far as doing a consultation with you. You
Okay.
can come to them with a budget and they can do their, analysis and say, hey, you actually don't need this much, or hey, we might need a little bit more.
Okay.
Or, again, they can say they can come to you with a recommended budget as well. So that would be where we would start at that point. And then again, fast forward, whether it's, 30, 60, 90 days, whatever, however long it takes you to get that property furnished.
Okay.
Basically, you'd come to me and say, okay, it's ready to go. And then we would, sign our agreements. So I do a 1 year minimum agreement.
Okay.
So get that signed over, and then I get professional photos taken, get a copywriter to write up a professional, compelling description utilizing all the areas that you can fill out information on a listing,
Sure.
and then it goes live. And then once a month, you'll get a profit and loss statement showing you, hey, this is how much the property brought in. This is what our management fee, our cut of the revenue is. And then here's any supplies that were, needed to be refilled over the course of the month. And then you'll get your direct deposit of your funds within 5 business days.
After the end of the month.
Yep. From the month prior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. So, how does somebody reach you? How do they get a hold of you to do a consultation and get your services?
Yeah, appreciate that. The best way to get a hold of me is just go to my website. It's Short Stays Worldwide. Again, that's stay with an S, shortstaysworldwide.com. My information is on there. And so just reach out. Happy to have a conversation with you and see if your property makes sense.
Awesome, guys. Well, go check out Short Stays Worldwide. We're going to put that in the link in the description. And go check out his website and give him a call and book a consultation.
Awesome.
There you go. Cool. That's a good note to close it on.
Yeah.
There you go. Hopefully that should bring in some clients.
We'll see. We'll track that ROI over the next year.
Well, I was trying to tee up those loaded questions.
Yep.
Get you going. No, that's I get the game. Hey, I want to ask you on a personal level. I know you don't do arbitrage, but like I've got 3 properties I want to arbitrage.
So I have a guy. He was at your event.
Okay.
That he is not interested in management. He's interested in arbitrage.
Okay.
So I can pass your information to him and have him reach out to you. Well, he already knows who you are, so I'll just say, be like, hey, and Dan has a couple properties that he's wanting to arbitrage and stuff. So, but
okay.
and hopefully I'll grab some lunch with him next week because like he was one that was asking some questions of Troy. He was the one that was all the way in the back, and then he came up, and Troy was like, "Yeah, you got to speak up."
Oh, yeah, no, we talked to that guy, Carlos.
Yeah, Juan.
Yeah, I'm talking to him right now. I trying to see. I tried to call him. I don't know. Trying to get it. We lined some stuff up, but we're figuring that out. So no, I've already been talking to him.
Oh yeah. So yeah, he was the one when we connected. He mentioned that he just does arbitrage. He's not interested in management. So, but yeah, I mean, with your current Airbnb, whenever you're ready to take that off of your hands and get your time back, definitely hit me up. So I don't know if I told you, I do a 15% management fee. Yeah, so pretty reasonable for the services that you get. So
okay.
If you're looking out of state at any place where you want to vacation to,
right,
start looking at buying some properties there, and you get a free vacation rental. I mean, I don't know what better pitch than getting a free vacation rental there is, but
Exactly. No, for sure. It's a compelling idea.
Yep. Yep.
Um, well, cool. Then yeah, no, I'll think about that. I don't know if I mean maybe you could probably run it on AirDNA, the one that I've got, and see if it's something you want to do, or see what it keys out as.
Right. Right.
But no, I'm definitely interested. I think I want to just not even mess with it, you know.
Just arbitrage it out.
Just or yeah, or manage it. I don't know for sure which way is the better way. I mean, I think the arbitrage is probably a cleaner deal, especially for getting like loans and stuff like that. Um, but I'm not opposed to the management. It's just,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Whatever you decide to do, So
Yeah. Hey, do you want to keep sponsoring the event? If you do, I definitely get a roll up or something like that. I definitely think it would help.
right.
But
Let's see what kind of juice I can get out of the first one, and then
yeah,
we
yeah.
can talk.
Okay.